I believe I heard you say at some point in an interview that the Meg took 22 years to get made.
Yep.
What does that process look like?
Well, it looks very painful and very agonizing and, you know, frustrating. Uh, it teaches you everything you need to know about being in the business, which is patience, patience, patience. And I used to say that patience was my first name, but now I would say it's my middle name, my last name, and my first name. Because I've had other movies that have taken 16 years and 12 years and so
Wow.
on, and one that took 3 months. So, you know, but the Meg was is won all the awards. Gandhi took, I think, 10 years or 20 years. So what it looks like is we sold it for a lot of money to Disney. They sat on it for 3 years. They tried to develop it, but commercial competition made them take it off the shelf in a very interesting way. The agent who sold it for us was a guy named Jeff Robinoff, and Jeff sold it to an arch rival of his, a guy he really did not like, who was the head of Disney.
Hmm.
But he sold it to him, and that guy determined to get it made, and started in good faith with us into getting it made. And then suddenly, out of the blue, Jeff got an offer from to be the head of Warner Brothers. He was a big shot agent at ICM, and suddenly he was now the head of production at Warner Brothers. And the first thing he did is he looked on Warner's shelves and pulled a shark movie off the shelf, Deep Blue Sea, and green lighted it and put, a rocket under it to get it done before Disney could release Meg. So the minute that happened, Disney dropped Meg,
Oh.
and we went through a 3 year period of moaning and bemoaning, etc. And then I resold it to New Line, who had it for about 3 years, and were within a week of green lighting it when they suddenly have jitters about the budget and didn't believe the director, could bring it in for the budget that was authorized, and they dropped it too. And then more years went by before the new producers came on and sold it to Warner, uh, which by then had acquired New Line. And so some of the people involved in the original Meg deal ended up being involved in the final movie.
Mm.
So these are, I could tell you 10 sagas like this about projects that have gone into what we call limbo. And Meg was lucky to rise out of limbo into, let's not call it heaven, but whatever the next, you know, metaphor is.
But what is the logic for dropping it for from Disney instead of just holding it and maybe see in the future if it's possible for them to create?
Well, because there was pressure from us on that. We didn't want it
Ah,
sitting
okay.
around
Yeah,
forever.
I see.
Like we have another several projects. One of them is one of the greatest screenplays I've ever read or sold, called Henry's List of Wrongs. And that was sold for a lot of money at auction. New Line had it for several years and never got it made. So it went into turnaround, what's called turnaround. And maybe 8 years later, I sold it to Universal, and Universal realized that the problem with it is that it was romantic comedy with a male lead, that it needed a female lead. So they hired a writer who turned it into Cindy's List of Wrongs instead of Henry's List of Wrongs. And they couldn't get that made either, because for it to get made, they would have had to pay $10 million dollars to the studio that owned it before to get it out of turnaround. And anyway,
Mm.
it's languishing in limbo still.
Ah, I
And
see.
this happens a lot in Hollywood, is that the greatest stories never get made because of complicated, extremely complicated politics, money issues, personality issues, so on.